Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So the world's 500 wealthiest people added $1.8 trillion, that's trillion, with a T like Tom, to their combined wealth in 2020, last year. That was the news from about a week ago, maybe a little bit more. And they reported that this is the largest annual gain since they created that list, since they began tracking these figures. They said that the wealth of the richest people on earth increased by 31%. Imagine that. Think of that. Think of the position you would be in if your net worth increased by approximately 1/3 of what it is now during the worst depression since the Great Depression decades ago. And this information was announced as unemployment for average Americans soared again. So in the week ending January 9th, the number of unemployment claims jumped to 965,000. That's nearly 1 million new Americans filing for unemployment in 1 week. That's not the overall number, that's 1 week. Nearly 200,000 more people filed for unemployment last week as compared to the week before. It's just jumping unbelievably. And those are just traditional employees. An additional 284,470 Americans filed for benefits through the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Fund. That's the fund which is for people who work gig jobs or self-employed and things like that I talk about. Add to that 2,008 new claims filed by federal employees and 1,060 newly discharged veterans, and we had 1,252,538 Americans who now lost their job in a single week, nearly 1.3 million. Yet you have Republican lawmakers and even some corporate-owned Democrats, shills like Joe Manchin, that are out there talking about the debt and the deficit and, oh, now we got to bring the debt down. They just can't afford to help average Americans. But they had no problem. They blew how many trillions of dollars propping up the stock market early in the pandemic? They were literally just printing cash for them. Money that most certainly helped some of these 500 wealthiest people who didn't need it, which just is such a slap in the face. You've got Manchin and others, these deficit hawks in the Republican Party, who are always concerned about making sure that they have targeted payments. We can't make payments to people who don't need it. We have to ensure that only those in need receive financial help. But that's only when it comes to average Americans. When it comes to corporate America, when it comes to their wealthy donors who are invested in the stock market, they basically offer a blank check. They could not care less if some of them don't need it. Money is no object when it comes to them. But we, the people, average Americans, oh no, they're treated like the redheaded stepchild. And you know, the bigger picture, I mean, yes, this is horrible and people are on the verge of collapse and something needs to be done immediately. But if you take a wider view, you know, bring the camera lens out to get a wider shot and look at the long-term ramifications of this, by our government failing to take care of everyday Americans, your average workers and small business owners, not just one time, not just, hey, we're going to give you money once and good luck with that. See if you can make $1,200 last for 8 months. So many other countries stepped up and helped their people through this pandemic, which is why their people aren't out in the streets screaming and yelling and protesting lockdowns. Our country here in America, no, they've allowed an even greater concentration of wealth at the top, just as they did in 2008 when Obama bailed out the banks but failed to bail out homeowners. So now we're headed towards an even more monopolistic society. So we as consumers, we're going to be forced to buy from only a handful of these behemoth corporations. And if they choose to treat their workers like crap or make all of their products in countries with slave labor or human rights violations, we can't just take our money elsewhere because elsewhere is closed. There is no elsewhere. It gives these greedy, wealthy companies way too much power over all of us, including our elected officials. And then we've got this vicious cycle because they do have so much power. So they wield that power. They hold it over our elected officials' heads. They hold their money and power over them to get them to do what they want, to get them to enact legislation to their benefit and not to ours, or to withhold support from and not vote for things that would help us, but harms their bottom line. Unless we can get corporate-owned candidates out, and that's on both sides of the aisle. That's people like Joe Manchin. That's a lot of these people, all of the Republicans. But there are definitely corporate Democrats that need to go. Until we can do that and get true progressives in, we are in a no-win situation. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. Sorry, guys. Wish I had better news for you on this, but yeah, it's not good. Let's hope that Biden at least steps up to the plate and then they don't start with their BS about having to bring down the national debt, because it will destroy the country for decades to come until people are so sick of it that it's what we're going to see in this country is an uprising that will make what happened at the Capitol last week look like a picnic. All right, I'll talk with you soon. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care.